Fellas, it feels like it's forever. It feels like it was forever since I've seen y'all. It's Podcast Monday. So let's rock and roll. Let's get to our recording and jumping straight into first of all, Derek, you spent the weekend in the cave?
I was in the caves deep in the woods of Hernando County, yes.
What cave, Derek? What cave?
Did you know that there were caves in Florida?
I did not.
Look up the
Our-
P.
our- we're already like under sea level.
So you're actually in a cave. I thought you meant like your bedroom cave, like just chilling. So he's actually in a cave. Okay.
I mean, we can talk some geography now because I know all about Florida. So the highest point in Florida is in Jackson County up near Mariana. But I'm going to tell you that there are hills in Dade City right here that are 100, 200 feet above sea level. There are caves in Hernando County. Look up the Peace Cave, and you can literally crawl in the ground. It's crazy. So, yeah, I spent yesterday in a cave.
All right, so I can mess with you. Me and you will hook up. We'll have a date, and we'll go above sea level. I'm not going below though.
Yep.
I'm not doing the cave.
Yep.
All right. So game of the week. Plant City. Matt, you were sidelined for that game. Now, much hype around that game. Big district game. Either one of those could probably came out district champ. Plant ends up winning 42-0. How in the hell did that happen?
Man, Plant came to play. They really did. The one thing I noticed the most was really their pass rush, and the quarterback, man, he just couldn't throw for Plant City. He really couldn't get anybody open, and he was just getting tackled. So Plant really came strong. Their defense was really there on top of them, man. Plant City really couldn't make too much moves. So it was unfortunate. It was a big win for Plant. I know those guys are super excited. Emotional game for Plant City. Some of those guys, I could see they're upset. It's one game. I hope those guys bounce back and keep doing well this season.
So I went back and looked at the film that you cut from that game, and it looked like Plant just applied horrendous amount of pressure on Denson, Plant City's quarterback, and he just could not get comfortable. Plant City sparingly made plays every now and then, but Plant's defense was on top of them. They were relentless with the pressure, and then they just made timely plays defensively, interceptions, fumble recoveries. Like they were just kind of all over the place. True?
Yeah, absolutely. They really showed out.
Yeah, sometimes, Preston, I mean, didn't Plant City get thumped earlier in the year by a team similar? Right. We get some outside pressure on the quarterback and all that good stuff. So, it's not that Plant is a 40-point, better team than Plant City. It just sometimes you just get certain matchups, and I think that maybe had something to do with it. They were able to figure out something in that pregame breakdown, and they exploited it. And they kept their foot on the gas, but it happens sometimes. Sometimes you just get those matchups, and you get this preparation. They find one or two little things that they can exploit, and you can bet if there's something to exploit, teams like Plant are going to find that, and I believe that's what happened in this situation.
So now you go just in that district, in their district, they have a meeting. This is Plant. Plant has a meeting with Alonzo on the 27th of October. If Alonzo beats Plant somehow, you're looking at a three-way, actually be a two-way. It'll be a two-way tie between Plant and Alonzo. Both will be sitting at 2-1. The district championship comes out with the head-to-head. That means Alonzo will ultimately win that district. That's 4M District 7. Do either one of you see Alonzo beating Plant to win that 4M District 7?
Alonzo seems like to have a pretty strong team this year. They had that running back, Owen Beach. I haven't got to hear much about him. He might be injured right now, but it's, when you start getting towards the end of the season, the team that has all their players health, at 100 pretty much is usually who's going to dominate. And I think that's what we're seeing around is, players are starting to get injured and, they don't have their whole setup. So hopefully Alonzo I mean, hopefully they can bounce back. I know they just had another loss this past week, but that's a big district game. Hopefully they can come together and beat Plant. That'll be a big game though. Plant, man, they just looked really good. From the first time I saw them against Tech versus this past week, the coaching, they didn't have much penalties. It just seemed like they were really put together, pretty sound.
Yeah, Preston, it's a matter of peaking the right time of the season, and Plant's doing that right now. Obviously, Alonzo had that 1-2 punch with their quarterback, running back, and Owen Beach is out with an injury for this game coming up. So, but their quarterback really is a special player, and he can definitely do some damage. But Plant goes into this, I'm sure as a favorite. And but that being said, the quarterback at Alonzo, you can't overlook that situation there. But it's going to be a heck of a matchup. I wish both teams were 100%. But yeah, Plant's got the momentum right now, and it's about playing. It's peaking at the right time of the year, and I think Plant's doing that right now, heading into postseason.
Mark that date, 27th of October, Alonzo versus Plant for the district championship. And good luck to both teams. Stay healthy until then. So another shootout for Jesuit as they beat Gaither in overtime. Now, Jesuit, we're talking strength of schedule here. So here's the SOS schedule session. Jesuit in our area, Central Florida, has one of the toughest schedules. However, Jesuit being a private school, they're able to schedule outside of the county. So let's go to their opponent, which they beat in overtime. We're going to go to Gaither. Gaither's schedule is quite impressive for an in-county team. Gaither started the season off with Steinbrenner. Then they rolled in with a 1-point loss to Wharton. Then they lost big to Sumner. Then they lost by 9 to Tampa Bay Tech. Then they lost by 10 to Hillsborough. All right. So right there alone, you're looking at Wharton, Sumner, Tech, Hillsborough, which can be considered 4 of the better teams in the county. Then they go to overtime against Jesuit. So 5 of their first, 7 games are against dog schools. Okay. Really good teams. Now on the 20th, this Friday coming up, they've got Durant. And Durant, if I'm not mistaken, still only has 1 loss on their schedule. So just looking at this Gaither schedule, like how tough is that in both of your opinions?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely didn't hold back on their schedule. All the best teams are playing all the best, and so then like you said, they're going to go play Durant this next week. That's another tough game. And then they play Leto and end the season with Newsome. And Newsome's a good team too. So they have a really tough schedule this year.
I tell you what, I mean, look at both sides of that. I mean, they just played Jesuit too, and to look at Jesuit's schedule and Gaither's schedule, I mean, that's mighty impressive. But yeah, you're right. Gaither's going to finish up with Durant and Newsome. You don't want to tangle with those two on the south end of the county. That's a tough 1-2 punch to finish out your 2 of the last 3 games against Durant and Newsome. Yeah, no thanks. It's going to be tough, but they're going to be in for it. And every single game they played, it's been a tough matchup. But man, their schedule and Jesuits. I mean, when you look at what they've done, man, those guys have been battling all year. So yeah, hats off to both of those teams.
And it almost looks like somebody miscalculated when they created their schedule. Like they didn't think that some of these teams on their schedule were going to be as good as they were. Sumner had a really good year last year, and then you probably miscalculated because Hillsborough had a down year last year. But right now they're sitting at 2-5, and that Wharton game could have went either way, right? Okay, that Wharton game could have went either way. They lost this game against Jesuit in overtime, and I watched the film on the Hillsborough game. That game could have went either way. So Gaither possibly should be sitting at about, instead of 2-5, I'd give them 4-3 right now. But a heck of a schedule for Gaither just playing Hillsborough County teams. And then, like you said, they got Durant coming up, then Leto, and then Newsome with a triple option. That's going to be a doozy. Do you see any way that Gaither wins their last 3 games this season? Last 3 games this season, and then in the season, what would that make them? At least 500, right?
Me being a stat junkie, you could, even if they were favored, let's say they were favored 70% in each three of those games to go 3-0, it's under 50%. It's going to be tough, even if they can be favored in each one of those three games, it's going to be tough to pull that out. So we'll see.
So Gaither traditionally has a level of success. They're always one of the better teams in the county. I still think they're one of the better teams in the county. They just have a hellified schedule and just came off on the bad end of the stick this time. But a team that traditionally has not been good, that is currently having some success, is Blake. Now, I'm all around town, and somebody bumped into me and said, "Hey, how come you guys don't talk about Blake? How come you guys don't talk about Blake?" And I know what that means. Hey, we're having some success. Show us some love. Now, Derek, why doesn't Blake get more media attention than they currently do?
Well, I mean, that's on the media side. I'm not sure. I've been a believer in Blake all year. I mean, we've talked about a number of their prospects. They've got just a tremendous cornerback prospect, underclassman number 2. Name escapes me right now. Please forgive me. They've got this kick returner that's doing just amazing things. They've got some great talent over there. So I've been a believer in Blake. I mean, we talked about them, I think, in the first or second episode, and we pegged them for about possibly a 8-9 win type of season. So they're right on track. I mean, we kind of went through their schedule earlier on, and we knew this TC game was going to be a tough one, and they fought them tooth and nail. I mean, 38-17. They got 2 games to close out, Chamberlain and Robinson. I think they're going to finish their year 8-2, quite honestly. And so I'm a believer in Blake. I like quite a bit of what they're doing over there, so I'm game for it. I like what they're doing.
You got to kind of tiptoe into this because you don't want to offend anybody. So respectfully, teams, first of all, let's start off with winning cures all, and winning is going to get you more attention. All right. At the same time, people are going to be a little skeptical from like the one-hitter quitters. So Blake is winning this year, and we specifically have shouted Blake's praises since the start of the year. Okay. But at the same time, just being objective, more media is, number one, they're going to gravitate towards the better teams. And though Blake is having success and they are winning, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're one of the better teams in the area. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean they don't deserve any kind of praise. And yes, we give them much deserved praise, but you can't fault the mass media for not jumping on the Blake bandwagon when this is the first time they've had. I'm just going through their previous years, when this is one of the few times that they've had a level of success, which they had. Credit them, last year they were 7-4, but then the year before they were 1-10. Okay, and then it just is below 500 for a number of years. So you got to kind of be patient, as these other media members are humans, and they want to see Blake have a sustained level of success, and they want to see Blake beat some of the better teams. Once that starts happening, Blake will start to get more of the attention that they'll deserve, because they're beating better teams and they're doing it consistently.
Drawing a parallel to the college game, let's call this the TCU UCF effect, right? And even USF. Remember how TCU and UCF, the year UCF won undefeated, they didn't win. So you almost have to play that season to prepare for the next season. So you're building the credibility over that one season. So yeah, to some extent, you've got a high school, to draw a parallel to college. You've got a TCU/UCF situation going on, to where you've got to play this season, and then it's laying the groundwork for that next season down the road. But yeah, I think Blake's doing that. Yep.
Absolutely. And like we said, you may not know, Blake, according to Max Preps, was a 7-4 team last year. Okay. So they're above 500 last season. They're above 500 this season. So evidently something is working on that side of town. And once it continues to work more, that schedule kind of turns over some. They start playing some of the better teams. Now you start seeing media gravitate towards that, because they want to be a part of telling that story of Blake.
Yep. And it's a great story to tell too. It really is.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Credit to that whole staff. Hey, one of my high school guys, the OC over there. So Hey, maybe I'm just saying maybe he got something to do with them being successful. That's a Hillsborough guy in a Blake uniform, so I get it. Hey, go Terriers, go Yellow Jackets.
Yep, no doubt.
Derek.
Yep.
I see you with a Jets shirt on.
I'm not a Jets fan. This is free
However,
gear. So yeah, this is free gear. So yeah, one of my best buddies, he coached with the Jets, and he sends me free gear. I've got so much free gear from all over the place, but yeah, he was with the Jets. He's with the Eagles now, and it's going to pain me. I'm not sure I'm going to put Eagles gear on, but it's painful wearing Jets gear. But I will wear free gear. I've got. I'll pick. When I go to colleges, or and when my buddies are in the pros, they'll send me free stuff. So I represent. So yeah, I got my Jets gear on, and I don't wear it in public though. So make sure you crop this part out.
it's out there now. It's out there now.
I mean, I pulled for the Eagles last year because he's been at certain teams that has had some tough times, but they were with the Eagles last year, and Christy and I are godparents to their daughter, and just really great family, and so I actually pulled for the Eagles, and I was confused. I'm like, but you know what? We beat the Eagles that last game when Rondé Barber pick-sixed it, and then we opened up the next year and beat them. I think it was on Monday Night Football to open that new stadium. So, but I do have a grudge against the Phillies because our Rays, we still don't have a major league. We don't have a World Series yet, and I hold that against the Phillies. But I'll pull for the Eagles and wherever my buddy's at. So we'll see. But yeah, it's free gear, man. Free gear.
All right.
When you're in this business, you're in this business, you can have multiple favorite teams. Like before I was doing the media and stuff like that, I was always like, the Bucks. But now, you start building relationships. You go to college, and you're like, man, I want to go watch, this kid play. Now all of a sudden I'm watching, Colorado. Or whatever, and you start watching other teams and watching these players, especially in college, and then they go up. So I always know Preston always has a different hat on. Today has the Miami at Alabama. But to me, like, I've kind of grown into that too. I'm like starting to really enjoy all these other teams. And same thing for the NFL. I actually wore a Browns jersey, a Supreme jersey yesterday out to I was in South Tampa watching the Bucks game. And I got there like an hour early, so the Browns game was on. And just so happened I stumbled into a bar, and it was a Browns bar. So everybody, right when I walked in, they're like, "Oh yeah, he's got the Browns jersey."
Just so happens it just so happens that you stumbled in.
Yeah, it just so happened I was in South Tampa at the corner bar, and it happened to be a Browns bar, and I had a Browns jersey. And I'm not a Browns fan. It just the jersey was cool, like So it's pretty. It's funny how you start representing all these different teams. So.
No, it's funny you say that, Matt, because honestly, I got into what I do in 1999 because I love the game. I've loved Florida high school football, and unfortunately, I grew up a Bucks fan. I mean, my dad took me to my first game in 1979, 1980. I was through all the orange creamsicle jerseys and I think 14 years of losing double digits. It was rough, but I mean. I've been a Buck fan my entire life. And all of a sudden, what happens? I get into this business, right? And I do exactly what you just said. You start pulling for unfortunately, I lost some of my passion for NFL because now I'm starting to follow the kids that I was working with and all that. And I lost a little bit of my passion, and the Bucks win the Super Bowl. I'm like, are you kidding me? And it like when the Lightning won, it blew my mind. It was crazy. But if you would have told me when I was 8, 10, 12, 15, 16 that the Bucks were going to win a Super Bowl, I just couldn't have even wrapped my head around it. But when we did, I remember thinking, like, I kind of lost a little bit of that passion. So it's a weird thing. You kind of spread it out a little bit. I find myself watching the Titans and the Colts, watching Richardson, and I'm watching all sorts of games. I'm not even watching the Bucks game anymore because I'm following some of those kids that you work with. So there are some pros and cons to that, unfortunately. And I grew up a Buck fan, Tampa born and bred and raised, and all that good stuff. And so it's a different animal, but so I know exactly what you're going through. I mean, it's crazy watching Jalen Carter I'm watching Washington. I'm watching Michael Penix make the
Yep.
Heisman push for the Washington Huskies. It was the only game I
That
watched
was a
Saturday.
great game.
It's the only thing I watched Saturday was Michael Penix play for the Huskies. I mean, are you kidding me? I'm watching
Right.
University of
And
Washington.
he's busting the organs behind too. Penix is killing. I'm watching the LA Rams with Higbee, and then you're watching
Yes.
Baltimore with
Tampa Tech.
Nelson Aguilar, and then you're just watching all of these. Absolutely, man. I'm gravitating towards the teams that got Tampa Bay or even the state of Florida kids on them. More so Tampa Bay where we are. So that's the fun part about it, man.
Yep. Go Penix. Heisman, baby.
Go-
He's
Go
inside
Penix.
track. He's got to be inside track right now. Penix.
Absolutely.
Dade City / Tampa Tech. Come on. Crazy.
We'll say it again. Dade City / Tampa Tech. Let's go Penix, baby. And the whole family's great. If you know the Penix family, they're freaking fantastic. The whole family's freaking fantastic. So just seeing this level of success, even at Indiana, and then these 2 years at Washington, it could not be happening to a better family than the Penix.
Absolutely. Love it. Been awesome.
So we're going to talk running backs here. And the reason we squeezed in this segment, because we got a good mailbag question. And I kind of think we talk about running backs a lot. However, you can't talk enough about them. They're one of the premier positions. They get a lot of love. So they're even getting more love here. So here's a hard question. And the question came in from the mailbag was, give me your top 3 running backs in the area. All right. And since I've got the mic, I'm going to start. But I'm going to start with currently, statistically speaking, Corey Sims at Mitchell, Jeff Jones, who is a quarterback, but more so a running back. Okay, he's the position of a quarterback, but he runs the ball for over 1,000 yards a season. All right, so I'm going to go Jeff Jones and then Jamari Pierre from Horizon. Those are the area's top 3 rushing leaders, all over 1,000 yards already at this point in the season. Now, that is production. When we're talking about evaluating running backs or taking running backs just as high school players, I think that is a different conversation. So I'm going to, how I always do, I'm going to come at it from this angle. If I am looking at running backs as evaluating talents for the college level, I'm going to give you my top 3 right now. And this is no shade, no slight to anybody else. I get it. It's hard when you put rankings on. Somebody's going to be mad. Somebody's going to be sad. I get it. All right, but here we go. In this order, I'm going to go with Gerard Pringle Arnwood first. I think his body type, I think his anticipation, I think his explosion, I think all that makes for a fantastic high school running back and possibly even better collegiate running back. Number 2, I'm going Rod Gainey at Tampa Bay Tech. And the only reason I'm going with number 2, Rod at number 2, is because I think he's going to be a better offensive weapon in college than in running back in college. I hope they don't play him primarily at running back. I hope they give him the ball anywhere on the field because I think he's the biggest home run hitter. All right. So I'm going to go actually 1A, 1B, Pringle, and Gainey. Okay. Then I'm going with Devin Spencer down at Sumner. I think if you want a guy who is a one cut, put my pass down, gonna move the chains, and can bust it for 60 at any point in time, I think Devin Spencer is as good as it gets from Sumner High School. Now, I have the right to change my opinion at the end of the season, and somebody may emerge, but right now, those guys are the top of the triangle if we're talking about college prospects at the running back position. Matt, who you got?
I'm right there with you. I think I would put Rod Gainey at number 1, but just by a little bit, and just only really for the reason why I put him at number 1 over Pringle at number 2 is him being a senior. He's a little bit more experienced, a little older, but like I said, it's a very small margin between him and Gerard, in my opinion. So we got Rod Gainey, Gerard Pringle, which we talked a lot about him this season, and the third one, it's a tie actually. 2 guys that I've seen play this season, Tony Marshall over at Plant City, and then I like Devin Spencer at Sumner, and then as a nominable feature, I want to throw Schultz in there too. He's a great running back as well.
The thing about Pringle, Gainey, Spencer this is not the first year they've been doing this. They've been very consistent throughout their whole high school career. They've proven that they could carry the load for their teams. And so they make for really good high school production players. Then they make for elite, evaluated potential college athletes. That's the other thing about those three. All right, D, you're up, bro.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. We're going to be watching those three on Saturday, and they're going to make plays. I mean, Pringle, Spencer, and Gainey, you can jumble those up. Just different situations that are going to be presented to them at the college level, depending on what team they go to and all that good stuff. Those three kids are truly in that elite type of tier. And we've mentioned we've got Tony Marshall. You mentioned in Choates out of Riverview. Tremendous year. Leon Haynes out of Blake, just having a great year. We've got Owen Beach out of Alonzo. I mean, we can't overlook what he did early in the year. He was a hammer to that offense at the high school level. I mean, it's such a weird thing. Sometimes your greatest college prospects are not even the best players on their own team. And sometimes the other kid on the team is as good at the high school level, but there's a trajectory. And that trajectory that I think we're hitting on with Spencer and Gainey and Pringle, really, I mean, just tremendous upside potential. But at the high school level, I'm going to tell you, the Owen Beach kid, it was as good as it gets at the high school level. In the Bay Area, Owen Beach was as good as it gets at the high school level. So, I mean, we've got a tremendous group of running backs in the Tampa Bay area. I mean, we're talking about Tampa teams right now, and I think we've hit on a good batch. Owen Beach, Leon Haynes, Tony Marshall, and Choates out of Riverview. I mean, just had tremendous season. And then you've got those top three in that elite tier with Spencer, Pringle, and Gainey. I think both of y'all are spot on that. Those three just are in that just slightly uptick, that next tier. And I think they're going to have tremendous college careers. We're going to be very proud to sit there and watch them come a year, 2, 3 years down the road on Saturday. Those guys are going to be making some big time plays. But yeah, tremendous batch of running backs in this county, Hillsborough County. So it's fun to watch, no doubt.
And I want to shout out before we get out of this segment. I want to shout out to Marquel Johnson at Lakeland. At the beginning of the season, a lot was heard about Darius Ruckers at Lake, and Darius Ruckers, who is as good as a running back that you've seen in Polk County in the Tampa Bay area. But Lakeland has like an Alabama stable of running backs right now. They got 5 backs on roster right now with over 100 yards rushing. And Marquel Johnson, who not many know much about, is leading the Lakeland Dreadnoughts in rushing with over 45 yards per game. Now you say, well, just 45 yards per game. Yeah, the problem is all 5 of those running backs are also averaging 45 yards per game. So they rotate those guys in and out, and Lakeland's got a crap load of backs. And this kid right here is pretty doggone good if you turn the film on him. So
just to follow up on, you talked about Lakeland running back. Sometimes when you're looking at film from a game film perspective, you see a play and it's literally the only play you need to see. Like, all right, that was it. I don't care. Like every now and then it happens. And I believe one of those Lakeland running backs made a play against Armwood, and you just say, all right, that's what it looks like. Next, you just move on. And it's crazy because I've had head coaches, I've had NFL coaches, head college coaches in my house watching film. I've flown out to numerous colleges and sat in their staff rooms with film back before huddle, back before all the stuff, and literally would present to them film. And I would see coaches say, yep, that's what I needed to see. I'm done. And literally watch 3 plays on a film and be like, yeah, that kid's an offer. And so I whoever that was against Armoy, the Lakeland running back, he made a play and it just dropped my jaw. So no doubt, Lakeland's running back stable is deep.
All right, hopped in the film room. Derek, you saw a kid that was just a straight pretty sucker. And his name is Justin Zames. Is that it? Justin Zames, Berkeley Prep. What did you like about him?
Well, so just to give you some background, what I'm doing right now is there's about 10 days out of every year that I will sit down and watch 5,000 highlights. And granted, they're not the prettiest highlights and all that good stuff, but I will sit down and watch 5,000 highlights that these kids have made. And I will compile a list of the top 1,000 kids in the state of Florida, and 400 kids are going to go FBS Division I every year. So those kids are easy to find. The Devin Spencers and all these those kids are, that's not the main focus. So what I try to do is I try to compile a list of the kids that are either under the radar or lower division type of kids, and I send it out to all my lower division coaches for them to get in and look at kids and locate kids. I just give it to them free of charge. Here's 1,000 kids, get after it, recruit the state of Florida. So that's kind of what I do behind the scenes. But every now and then I'll start finding kids like, man, this kid could hit the radar. There's this big joker tight end kid over at Berkeley Prep. And man, how big is he, Preston? 6'4", 230, 240?
Listed right now, 6'4", and looks every bit of it on film.
And I like it. And the kid blocks. And he doesn't have a lot of, I don't know if he doesn't have a lot of completions yet so far this year. This is the kind of kid that goes to a camp and all of a sudden, 20 schools offer like, oh yeah, this kid's a big timer. This kid really does some things on film that jumped out at me, completely under the radar. No one really knows about him. But he's just a kid. I mean, ask me like, hey, who's popping? I don't want to tell you the big timers. Those kids are already known about. But this kid could really hit the radar. Tight ends with size, long frames, and ability to add 30, 40 pounds, blocks. And I think this kid can catch. I want to see him get out into some routes. I'm going to break down some game film. But I think this kid could hit the radar. He's a tight end out of Berkeley Prep. I just figure, hey, let's name drop him. He's a good-looking kid. Tell me, Preston, what do you think?
Man, I think as soon as he walks on a college campus at a camp, he's going to be an offer guy. Just off the look. Just that is a real thing. The eye test is a real thing. College coaches want to see that frame. He's long, he's tall. And then, you look at film and then you look at the profile and it says 6'4", 230. You're like, coach is lying. Somebody's lying. This kid ain't 6'4". This kid ain't 230. This kid looks 6'4", 230 without seeing him in person. All right. I think that another thing is he blocks in location with his hand in the ground. Okay. And then you got another advantage. He's at Berkeley Prep. Well, Berkeley Prep has a pretty good track record for getting guys to the collegiate level, and then into the pros. So this kid right here, Justin Zames, 2025, Berkeley Prep tight end, looks really athletic. I think he runs well. He ain't scared to mix it up in the trenches. That's a kid that college coaches, we're talking to you also. Mark it down if you don't have the name on your list right now.
Yeah, and Preston, it's a position that there's not a lot of big tight ends out there. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of like that middle backer, those true inside middle linebackers. I mean, everything's going to the spread. You got 4 and 5 wide receivers, and I mean, it's just you got wide receivers all over the place. But sometimes you're missing that tight end. You know what I'm saying? So when one comes around with size and the ability to get out athletically with good, this kid could hit the radar. I just want to throw his name out there, one of many. But hey, there you go, Berkeley Prep tight end, class of 2025. We'll see what happens.
Sumner flexed their muscle down in South Hillsborough County by dismantling Riverview. Okay, a team that I know I was, and all three of us were surely high on. Been high on both of those teams, but Sumner proved to be the better of the two. Now, the question is, did we prematurely elevate Riverview to a level that they were not prepared for?
I don't think we overrated them. I think Riverview's a very solid team. But I just think there are certain times that you want to you got to recognize Greg Smith this kid's special, man. I mean, he is just so special at a number of positions. And sometimes that is the difference. And so I don't think we I don't think we overrated Riverview at all. But quite honestly, I think it's time that we all look back and say, are we underrating Greg Smith? Because he is just truly a special talent. But
I'm with you there. I don't think that Riverview's overrated. I think that Sumner's talent is underrated. I don't think many people know that have not played Sumner how talented of a team that they are. And what's crazy is like if one guy is off for Sumner, they've got somebody else to pick up the slack. This game, it was Malik Brown who went off, who had 3 or 4 touchdowns. Greg is not even 100% healthy. He would look like a little bit of Greg of old days, but prior to the injury. And now Sumner goes and wins this game by 30 points. So, no, I don't think Riverview was overrated. I think people have underrated the talent that Sumner has around Greg Smith. And we talk about Greg a lot because he's probably their best player. But defensively, they're fantastic also.
They are two-way linemen too. I mean, these kids are going both ways. I mean, when Greg lines up at safety and quarterback, like he is 2-for-1 package. And you've got these linemen that play both ways. Their line, I'm telling you, man, their offense and defensive line is as good as anyone depth-wise in the county. And so you're getting 2-for-1 there. I mean, they're a deep team. I mean, we've talked about them a lot this year, deservingly so. And when they're healthy, man, I do not want to tangle with a healthy team like that. Nope.
Yeah. No. Riverview. If you look at their schedule, they haven't had the strongest schedule when you compare to like a Gaither or something like that. But they've had their challenges. They played East Bay, went all the way down to the end. That was probably one of their hardest teams they played this year. It was a big game, and then they had to face Sumner. And I think a lot of us, underestimated Sumner. I think when I thought about the game, I wasn't sure if Greg was going to play. But when you add Greg to the picture, in my opinion, he's probably the best player in Hillsborough County. Just the way he can pull his team together. And as far as QB, the dude is just unbelievable. And I've been watching him for the last 2 years at Sumner, and I've actually became great friends with him. I think now it's just which college is going to get him. He's going to now start getting a lot of hype, especially after a big win against Riverview. Riverview, like you said, I don't think that they're overrated. I think they have a strong team. I think that this is one of the first year they had a really strong team like this, and they're still trying to put all the pieces together. So when they go against a team like Sumner, it's almost like playing like Tampa Bay Tech or Armwood. And this time, I think Sumner is, the way they beat Wharton and the way they're beating these teams. Durant, I think that was an off game against Sumner. They didn't have Greg. When you add Greg to the picture, it is a whole new ball game. And so Riverview, they have a few hard games left. Riverview's got to go ahead and go down and fight Durant. I believe they have to play Steinbrenner, and I want to say they have Newsom?
Strawberry Crest, Durant, Steinbrenner.
Okay, so if you look at that, they got a big game, and I think this is their next challenge. Can they take Durant out? A lot of teams, Plant City beat Durant, but Durant still is, if you look at the district, they still run the district right now. Because Sumner would have ran it, but they lost, unfortunately, to Durant. And so, like you said, when you start looking at the district, you have this race between Riverview, Sumner, and who am I missing?
Durant, Sumner, and Riverview.
Durant, Sumner, and Riverview.
You got in that district. Hold on, I got you, my man. I got you. In that district, that's 4M8. Well. Newsom, 4M8.
So Newsom's in there, and so Newsom is, they're I think 2 and 3 right now. So the other 3 teams, Riverview, Sumner, and oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Riverview, Sumner, and Durant, they're having the battle, and so with Sumner losing to Durant, it really kind of threw everything out of kind of proportion. I think Sumner was just going to just take it, but now they're all going to battle, and it's going to really come down to Riverview beating Durant. And what that's going to do, it's going to put Sumner at number 1 in the district, which Sumner now will get that district pass to go on into the playoffs. My question is, I'm not sure how they're going to lay it out as far as the playoffs. Last year we saw Sumner win the district, and they had to go play Plant first game because Plant is also a 4M. So are we going to see something like that? Who's going to be the Tampa 4M team, the winner of?
It's going to depend on. It's going to depend on how the rankings shake out. And it depends on those district champs and where they rank those district champs. But even though, here's what's fun, Matt. Let me go back to what you said about just those 4 teams in the district, okay? Durant now leads that district. They're 2-0, okay? Because they beat now Sumner and Newsom, okay? Now, Sumner could beat Newsom, all right? They still got Newsom. That puts them at 2-1. Riverview could beat Durant. That puts Riverview at 2-1. Durant at all 2-1. You now have a 3-way tie in that district. But back to the original question about Riverview being overrated. First of all, you'd have to have them rated. We didn't have Riverview rated in our top 16 teams. So there's no rating to even start from to say they were overrated. Now, obviously, you have to say, what are they relative to their schedule? I think they were appropriately talked about according to the schedule that they have. They have a level of teams on there. They beat the teams on their schedule. They play well against those teams. I think you got to talk about it. Boom. Now, everybody else looking at us talk about Riverview, and then they get hammered by Sumner. Now everybody wants to start, hey, they're overrated because they got hammered by a team that's probably twice as talented as them that could probably compete with all the talented teams in the county that people just don't know about. So credit to the Sharks for winning the games on their schedule. Credit to Sumner for beating the Sharks, who we kept talking about a lot. That's how football happens. That's how it goes. That's supposed to happen. Shut us up. Bring the haters out and let them say you're overrated just because you lost to Sumner. The good thing for us is we have another week of Friday nights, but there always has to be the better games in town. And because we're at that time of the year, district games are there. The better teams are playing the better teams. So let's list them out in order. 1 through 3, you got to rank them. Who are your top? Matt, you're up first. What are your top 3 games for this coming Friday?
Man, I would say the best game for local people in Tampa to go to is going to be Tampa Bay Tech versus Jesuit. It'll definitely be a showdown of 2 of the best teams in the area just going at it. I think a good game this week would be East Bay versus Berkeley Prep. That'll be a good one. I know Rocco and when I talked to him, he was excited about this. Going to be their next hardest game after that Riverview game. And they're planning on bringing the heat over there to Berkeley Prep. And Berkeley Prep's a good team. We just talked about their tight end. I know they have Dallas Golden over there. They have a really good team. So that'll be a good game. And then, down in the East Hillsborough County, Durant versus Gaither. So Gaither's gonna, or is that gonna be at Gaither? I think that's actually at Gaither because Durant played home last week. So Durant's gonna head over to Gaither, and that'll be a good one. I think Gaither, man, they're tired of losing, man. They had such a hard schedule this year, and they played all the best teams, so they're gonna try to get the W against Durant. So that'll be a good one.
I'm not sure both of those are great football environments, and make sure you have a good pair of boots on because people are going to show off their boots whether they're at Durant or at Gaither. All right, so make sure you have a good pair of them hard bottoms on because really good football environments, whether you're out of Durant or you're at Death Valley on Del Mabry. All right, I'm up. I'm going Clearwater Academy International at number 5, Lakeland. Okay, and these rankings are BCP Sweet 16 rankings. Clearwater International with international talent versus number 5, Lakeland. That's going to be my number 1 game. Then I'm going Sarasota Riverview at number 8, Manatee. Manatee suffered a big loss to Venice. Sarasota Riverview, I think it's 4-3. Sneaky good still. Okay, their record doesn't indicate how good they are, so I'm going Riverview at number 8, Manatee. And then number 3, I'm going number 10, Jesuit, traveling to number 7, Tampa Bay Tech. Styles make fights. So you're talking about a traditionally very good Jesuit program, years, usually very, very good, versus a very talented Tampa Bay Tech team. And you get to play at Tech on Orient, which is one of the best environments in the city. So I like that. I want to see Will Griffin, the quarterback at Jesuit, up close and in person. Just got a Notre Dame offer not too long ago. I want to see Willie Suarez against the Stroud brothers at Tampa Bay Tech. So this is going to be a good one, even with the game in between the game, Jesuit versus Tech. So just to repeat, Clearwater International at number 5, Lakeland is our number 1, Sarasota Riverview at number 8, Manatee, and then we're going number 10, Jesuit traveling to number 7, Tampa Bay Tech.
I would pair what Matt said. I'm just sticking strictly in the Bay Area. But yeah, I that Jesuit Tex game is going to be special, and so that would be. I mean, if I were to crawl out of my cave and go to a game, it would be that game. But yeah, the Durant Gaither game, that's 2 great games, and that East Bay, exactly what you said, Matt. I'm all over that East Bay Berkeley prep game. But yeah, if I had a game or 2 to go to, it would be Jesuit Tech 100%, and then Durant Gaither. Man, it's gonna be good Friday night coming up.
It's sleeper prospect time, and you know what, Matt? I think you told me that you had a good one that I think we both agree upon.
So our sleeper of the week is my boy down in Sumner, Malik Brown. Man, he played against Riverview and just straight balled out. He had 3 touchdowns. I really like Malik Brown. I've been watching him, same thing, for the last couple of years since he was a sophomore, just balling out. His junior year, he had a great year. Now he's at Sumner. He had a couple games he couldn't play. He got injured. But boy, man, did he come back with flying colors. And it looks like Greg Smith likes to throw to him. And there's something about Malik Brown. This kid, he always, I mean, receivers, that's their jobs, go out there and catch the ball. But this kid, for some reason, anytime I've seen a QB just bomb the ball out to him, he can just get under that thing and catch it every time. I don't even think I've ever seen him miss a ball. I mean, I'm sure he's missed plenty in his career. But when this kid is out there, he is so fast. It's hard to mark. It's hard for these cornerbacks to get on him. But he just gets open. And even when the quarterback just throws it out there, he will get under it. And he's used to getting 2 or 3 touchdowns a game. And when I heard he was transferring to Sumner, it kind of, because he went to Armwood. I loved him there, so I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And man, he's really showing out. I think he's definitely underrated. I think more schools. I think he could potentially be a D1 player. You see a lot of these D1 kids, and when you compare him to them, like, he's competing at the same type of level as they are. He just might not have the height. Maybe that's what recruiters are holding back. He does have a few offers. I know he has a Jackson State offer. I'd like to see more action with him and get him a little bit more exposure. So Derek, if you have time, could you go ahead and cut up some film for him? Let's throw out some highlights for him.
No, absolutely. I've got all their game film, so I will break down. I'll break down his highlight first thing in the morning, and we'll feature him on Big County Twitter. So you guys pay attention to that, and I'll make sure I'll push that out to my FBS guys and see if we can get some bites on Malik. So that'd be good. Good mention.
Name drop Malik Brown. Mailbag time. Here we go. So you drop us a question. Everybody knows the routine. Drop us a question or drop us a statement on the BCP Instagram. We'll address the best ones. Here go the best ones. Matt, I'm tossing this question to you first. So give us the delivery. Give us the mail on this one. Question. Actually, statement. Durant making a run for states. Exclamation point. Take it.
Oh man, they're definitely confident. They're getting their wins under their belt. They got a few more hard games to kind of end the season out. We talked about the 3-way scenario between Sumner, Riverview, and Durant. So if Durant can pull through that and get through the playoffs, I think that's where us Tampa, we start seeing the challenges, in these other regions. They're going to have to go play some of these northern teams that are pretty tough. I think we said Lake Mary had a really good team. They're in that 4M. But also they might have to they might have to go against a team like Plant, a Tampa 4M team, just depending on how everything lays out. If they can get through that, they're going to have more problems on their hand. They're going to go down south most likely, and you're going to play teams like Columbus and these really, really big names that are just incredible teams. So, although I think that Durant has a really, really good team this year, and I'm really proud of the quarterback, just, there's a lot of great aspects, and I think that they're going to have more wins this season. But to get all the way to states, man, that's going to be a tough one. But hey, man, any given Friday, you just never know, man. The way these teams, you go against the best team and they just have an off game and you blow them flying colors. So it's really hard to
Shoot,
tell.
just
Yeah,
dude, they may have to see Sumner again
they might have
with
to
the
see
healthy
Sumner again.
Greg. That may
Yeah.
happen in the first 1 or 2 rounds. And how's that game gonna go? All right, next mailbag question. Exclamation point. Luke Knight, Wiregrass Ranch senior quarterback, is the best quarterback in the greater Tampa Bay area. Woo! That's a loaded question. I don't know if I'm prepared to answer that directly. But here's where we'll go with that. Luke Knight as a high school football quarterback is dang good. And he's in a system with Wiregrass that wants him to be successful and is showing off his skill set. Okay? Jesuit when he was at Jesuit, I think it laid the foundation and we saw a lot of the intangibles. I think we saw his leadership ability. I think we saw his moxie. I think we saw him make critical plays in critical moments. And this one, he was a sophomore. I think there was a excitement about Luke Knight at Jesuit. Now, 2 years later at Wiregrass, who is almost playing like they don't have anything to lose, and I think they only lost 1 game. They're letting Luke Knight kind of rip the ball around and kind of just be this gunslinger that everybody kind of knew he was when he came out of Wesley Chapel Little League. So is he the best quarterback in Tampa Bay area? I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch that one. I'm going to say that he might be the most exciting quarterback in the Tampa Bay area because of all the things he can do, and his production says so. He's really good with his legs. His film is fun to watch. He's putting up numbers through the air, and Wiregrass is winning games. You play to win the game.
This is what the greatest thing about sports is. You play to win the game. Hello?
And they're winning games, and much has to do with him. So I'm rocking out with Luke Knight as a fantastic high school player, and I think he's going to have a really good college career. But right now, I'm just a massive Luke Knight fan since he stepped on the field at Jesuit.
Same.
Yep.
Same. I like Luke Knight.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And I think you say, I mean, if he's not at the top of the list is like real short. It's a short list. At the high school level, this kid gets it done. And, there's going to be a lot of big time kids in the area, young kids that are popping big offers and all that. We've talked about the Jesuit kid, obviously. There's a lot of things, upside. A lot of big time programs are targeting quarterbacks, but this Luke Knight kid at the high school level is just really at the high school level is as good as it gets. This is the kind of kid that you want to run your high school program. And he's had a great year, and just watching him throw the football, that quick release, it's something special, no doubt.
What turned me on with Luke Knight was when I saw the state championship 2 years ago, and they were down fourth quarter, and the way he brought his team back together and just threw the ball, and they ended up rallying it back and winning late in the fourth quarter. Man, the grit that he showed, man, I was a fan. I'm like, all right, this kid, he's it, and he's a sophomore. I'm like, yeah, this kid's going places. I went and got to see him in the spring as well. And the one thing that I can say that he is probably better than most quarterbacks in the area is the way he leads his team. And sometimes, like when you get out there with them big boys, it can be intimidating, to be yelling at him like, yo, because who knows how this guy's going to take it if he threw the route wrong or, or whatever, he missed the pass and now I'm getting on him about it. But how does this guy going to take it? But I tell you, when I saw him in the spring, Luke did not care who it was. If he threw a pass to you and you messed up, he was going to tell you right there. He plays with a big heart, and I'm a big fan of Luke as well.
I'm gonna show some love to. Excuse me. I'm first of all, let me start off with Matt Thompson at Jesuit for bringing in Don Misick, who used to be the head coach at Clearwater, and Don Misick has a line of good quarterbacks that came out of his Clearwater program. Even back so when he was the offensive coordinator under Donnie Abraham, okay, at Clearwater. So Misick has done some really good things with quarterbacks. Now you take at that time, Misick's calling the offense at Jesuit, and he takes a sophomore quarterback, a first-year starter, and they go and win the state championship. So that's a credit to the head coach, Matt Thompson, who brings in and has trust in Don Misick, and they go win a state championship. And then you credit Mark Cantor, who a lot of people don't know. Mark Cantor started that whole Gaither success story. Okay, so Cantor was the kind of the creator of when Gaither really got going. Cantor was the head dog over there, and then he became the head coach at Hudson. Hudson hadn't had any success. He took Hudson to 500 seasons both years that he was at Hudson. Gets this job at Wiregrass, pulls them out the mud. Now I think he just won his 50th game at Wiregrass, and it's Wiregrass winning his head coach in the program. And now he's got this quarterback in Luke Knight, which is just lightening up with the stats. So credit to both those coaching staffs, Coach Cantor and his, Coach Thompson and his. And then I don't think Coach Misick gets enough credit for what he has done with quarterbacks. And Luke Knight is a success story of his. And Luke Knight's success also gets shared by Coach Mark Cantor, who has done tremendous things with his programs every stop that he's been at.
No doubt.
All right, and with that, another great show for the BCP Podcast. Thanks everybody for watching. And if you see Matt and you see Flex on the streets, keep talking trash to him. All right,
It's all love. It's all love, and I'm really enjoying watching these teams battle it back and forth. It's hard to predict the winner of them. I know Derek, when we try to bait him into that question, he knows how to get out of it. He doesn't. For me, they got me to say a few teams, and I've been to a few fields, and they're like, man, Flex, how did you pick that team over us? At the end of the day, it's all love, man. I'm so happy and proud of all these guys coming out of Tampa and these teams making noise. So
Hey, Matt, it's not fair because Derek literally stays in the cave. Like Derek on the weekends is in the cave, literally. And you and I on Friday night.
Yeah, he can say whatever he wants. I'm in the streets, man. Now I'm in the trenches with the boys on the sideline, trying to get information, trying to meet them and see who the next ballers are, man, so we can help promote their brand and their name.
We're out.
See you guys. Take care.